Hi दोस्तों, नमस्कार. Welcome to our YouTube channel Baji Rao IAS Academy. Today is 22nd of September and we are going to discuss the daily Hindu newspaper analysis. Before starting our discussion, we on the daily basis discuss some of the important prelims question that had been asked into the UPSC prelims. So today's question is on geography. You can answer the question by pausing the video. Okay. So the question is, in the northern hemisphere, the longest day of the year normally occurs in the your option A, first half of the month of June, B, the second half of the month of June, C, first half of the month of July, or D, second half of month of July. Now the question seems to be easy, but the options which has been framed might affect your thinking process. So be clarity over the option and then try to solve. We will provide you the answer in the last of the discussion. So before that, you have to attempt in a good way. And this is a easy question, but you have to be more cautious of solving this type of question. Okay, and this is also very interesting topic, so we will discuss it. And if you are new to our YouTube channel, please do share, subscribe, like our channel so that any updates regarding to our editorial discussion gets delivered to you in a more scientific and more good way. So friends, in today's article of discussion, we have to discuss two important editorial articles. Okay, and the first article is related to hypertension. Well, if you are salt lover, then please don't love the salt. Why? Because salt is one of the important factor for hypertension, and hypertension is one of the leading cause for heart attack, for heart related disease. So be careful on this. Okay, and also the second editorial will be discussed on technology led development and how the technology and the advancements in India had led to the progress of development in India. We are able to achieve Chandrayaan 3 landing successfully. We are able to achieve newer heights in the field of space, in the field of research, and thanks to the technology led development. And on the one side, once upon a time, India was criticized for having technological advancement because the developed country tried to blame us that please focus on poverty elevation first, then come to technology. But now India has been setting examples and reflecting the Western countries or the developed countries that we do have capability despite we face poverty, despite we have numerous challenges. But when it comes to Indians, we are able to deliver what we say. That is the important point to discuss, and little bit very much interesting topic we are going to discuss today. So again, after discussion of the editorial, we are going to discuss prelims rapid fire, where we are going to discuss approx 5 important articles for the prelims point of view. So be with us, and definitely you will get more benefit from our discussion because we provide holistic discussion on these topics. And also, if you want to get the PDF, please do subscribe our Telegram channel, and the link has been provided into the description box. So starting with our editorial discussion, but you have to attempt the mains question which had been asked in 2019, and the question says the reservation of seats for women in the institutions of local self-government had a limited impact on the patriarchal character of the Indian political process. Comment. So here you have to answer the role of increased Panchpati. Whom do we call Panchpati? The husband of the woman who didn't participate into the election but takes decisive role in the decision making. That is the role of Panchpati. So this is not a good idea. Why not a good idea? Because women had been elected, women had been chosen from the people. So women should lead the role rather their husband or rather their male counterparts. That is the issue. That's why the women led empowerment, which was focused by Panchayati Raj institutions as well as given the constitutional status via 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment, didn't receive much success because of the patriarchal nature of the society. So this is one of the problem. And also to deal with that, what should be done along with why there is the issue of patriarchy, you have to think in a deeper manner so as to come into the answer. Okay, so this type of questions makes you thinking in a good way, in a right direction, and definitely it is going to enhance your thinking capacity, and you will be well answering the question by understanding different perspective from different angle. Okay, so now we are going to shift to our editorial discussion, and please like our channel, subscribe our channel if you are new to our channel. Okay, now shifting our focus to editorial discussion. First article related to GS paper 2. So when we talk about hypertension, what is hypertension? Hypertension is a scenario when the blood pressure gets very high than the normal. That's why it is also called a silent killer. And because of that, there is high cases rising of hypertension because of our lifestyle or the food that we consume. And to deal with that, we have a report which has been recently launched by World Health Organization that talks about hypertension. Okay, so in normal terms, in technical terms, what do you mean by hypertension? It is basically when the blood pressure in our blood vessel is too high and the condition is 140 by 90 mmHg or higher. Okay, and 140 represents systole and 90 represents diastole. You know the heartbeat, no? That is basically the point here. And the people with high blood pressure may not feel the symptom, but if the person goes for the checkup, and then they may get understand about the hypertension that they are facing. So that is the problem of this issue. And if there is no hypertension, meaning your heart is working normally without any blockage of the blood, and that's why you are healthier. And if there is a situation of hypertension, so you need to be tense sometimes, and because of that you need to get to the correct healthcare lifestyle. Okay, and also in the case of hypertension, the blood may not flow easily through the vessels, and that's why there can be the chances of heart attack, heart stroke, and that may further lead to death. And why this is a great concern? Because despite the availability of low cost medicine, people are not aware of that, and because of that they are not taking precautions. And precautions here are very important role to play. In fact, in any disease, when we talk about precautions, that means you are reducing your chances to get infected, you are reducing the chances to become ill. So precautions is very much necessary nowadays because of increasing varieties of lifestyles, the eating pattern, and all these. So you have to understand about the basics. Okay, so hypertension, and World Health Organization has published a report on hypertension which was released on September. So we will understand basics about hypertension. So when we talk about the findings with respect to India, then finding is relatively not good, but it is better that we are performing good, like some of the data says, and you have to mention and remember some of the data, because when you quote in your main answer writing, that means you have read beautifully and you are inculcating your data into the answer sheet. So you can see here 188 million Indians aged 30 to 79 years have hypertension. That is bigger data you can see. And what lies ahead is that out of them, the diagnosis is only 17%, 17 nahi, 37% basically, and 30% are treated only. And also, mere 15% of the people have hypertension under control. Despite they know that we have hypertension, we have to regulate our lifestyle, but despite of that, 15% of the people have hypertension under control. And also the stock incidence, when the normal functioning of the heart gets affected, that cause stroke incidence. Okay, and you can see the rate approx 108 to 172 per 1 lakh people per year. This is also significant concern. And when we talk about global burden of disease report, which was in 2019, heart attack was one of the leading cause of death and disability in India. That's why the health of heart will ensure your health of the overall body, overall mind, and overall development. And if India faces such type of higher burden of disease, then definitely it affects human resource. Okay, that is the point we have raised to you. So better you should be aware. And what are the factors behind the rise of hypertension? The rise in consumption of salt. Normally there is a proper guidelines how much amount of salt we should consume, but despite of the knowing or unknowing, we are consuming salt more than the normal, and because of that the incidence of hypertension is increasing. You should also understand the rate via which fast food is getting inserted into our lifestyle is also one of the leading factor that can have the impact of hypertension on our body. So you can see studies have shown excess salt consumption. And what is the normal consumption? 5 grams a day. If you are consuming 5 grams a day, then well and good. If you are consuming more than that, be alert and be reducing your consumption. Okay, and that salt consumption is responsible for 17 to 30% of hypertension, meaning it is one of the factor, it is not the only factor. So what are the other factors? Other factors are obesity, smoking, drinking, genetic problem it may be, and the cholesterol, anger, stress, and hormone imbalance. If you take more stress, anger, then it will affect your heart pumping and it will affect overall development of your growth. So stress free is to be ensured by you and by your mind, and you have to take initiatives. Okay, so that is the point here. And also when we talk about in India, a study in 4 Indian states published in 2021 found that high salt and sugar content in packaged food items. Today we are eating lots of fast food, the packaged items, and we have huge spices in them, salts in them. Then definitely this can increase the risk of hypertension and also the risk of disease burden on India. That is an important point. But not all thing is bad for India. India has in fact achieved a lot, and जाहिर सी बात है, we need to achieve more and more as well. For example, India has done well in improving the blood pressure control via an initiative called Hypertension Control Initiative, which was launched in 2018. And now this initiative has enrolled 5.8 million hypertensive patients for the treatment in 27 states. And what is its outcome? Like 48% of the patient which enrolled at primary healthcare center and 55% at health and wellness center achieved blood pressure control as of March 2021. So we are doing well and we will do better. But from your side, you should be well aware what you are consuming and how much you are consuming. That will make you that how you and your body, your mind will well perform and will be free from disease burden like all these, because your health decides the health of our nation. So definitely you have to focus on that as well. So way forward is that making front of the pack nutrition labeling mandatory. You eat various packets of chips and fast food items, so there should be a mandatory nutrition labeling that if you eat all these, then how much nutrition will you get, what is the amount of salt, all this, so that you will be well aware while consuming them, along with encouraging reformulation of foods to cut down the salt in various products. Along with the important portion is you should raise awareness in the people to reduce salt intake. And also more and more number of people if well aware about the disease, then definitely they can come to the doctors, the hospitals for the treatment. So it is also necessary that greatly we have to increase the number of hypertensive patients for the treatment. That is also important point. So we have discussed the article in great detail. Hope you understood and hope you will care for your health as well. Now shifting our focus to second editorial discussion. The second article is related to GS paper 3 and it is also a very interesting topic to note. So India is achieving milestone in different fields like science and technology, health sector and many more sector. But do you know when India got independence, India lacked resources, materials for the technology led development. We are dependent on various countries, but now India is achieving milestone by indigenously developing satellite, indigenously developing medicines and various things in the coming times. That is a remarkable achievement for India. Okay, and when India started its technology program after independence, many developed nations criticized India, including in India. There was many criticism that why you are focusing on a space program, instead you should focus on poverty elimination, nutritional enhanceability, all of these. But the leaders were well aware that if we want to achieve the success in a short span of time in various fields like the health, like the nutrition and all of that, then we need to take a leapfrog in terms of integrating technology to our various dimensions. And that is the important point, that from where we started integrating technology into our developmental progress. That's why we are called for technology led development, because we were facing the long years of colonialism, and because of that we lacked development, we lacked reforms in our health, we were facing crisis, and to leapfrog from these crises there was a need to have a technology led growth. That is the important point to note. Okay, and now we can see the India's achievement. India is now a rising star in these fields like our Chandrayaan mission, and we are also launching Aditya L1 mission for the sun, to know the sun. Once upon a time we were very restricted to the space sector because of lack of resources, and now we are rising here. That is an important milestone to understand. But how this is possible despite India had faced or are facing the challenges like poverty? Well, that is India's strategy. Well, that is India's gene of having the success in limited resource. That is the proud moment for India and for our scientists. And for that, when we come to the history, then you should be aware that the founding fathers as well as the scientists that was contributing to India's different programs like space programs, like we can have the example of Vikram Sarabhai. All of these personality had led to our early technology foundation in the initial days of our independence, like 1950s 60s. We have established the science department as well as the space department, along with the contribution of the people like Vikram Sarabhai as well as Homi J. Bhabha. These personalities were founding fathers in our space program, in our nuclear program. You need to understand all of these. Okay, so because of our early technology foundation, we were and we are able to achieve milestone in today's times. And here you should note that the role of a state here is very important, because in these type of technological advancement, the private sector first of time try to not interfere because of higher gestation period and higher capital cost. That's why the role of a state becomes very important, and hence we can see that in the initial period of our technological advancement, the role of a state was very much clearly seen, and the advancement we are seeing nowadays in terms of our achievement, that is the point you should also note. So you can see the example between 1951 to 1961, India established 5 Indian Institute of Technology, and you are well aware of IITs. And also, the first 2 Indian Institute of Management was inaugurated in 1961, and along with that, there were number of public sector units which was established in diverse field, and that promoted industrial production in the field of steel, in the field of fertilizer, machine tools, as well as various components that were needed for our technological advancement. And because of these sectors, we were more focusing on technology led advancement. And that's why new technology, as was believed by our leaders, that fastens the pace of development, that India was suffered once upon a time when India was under the control of colonialism. Okay, so first of all, we were colonized, and second, after independence, we were facing lack of resources and various nitty-gritties related problem. And despite that, we were focused on improving our status and improving our growth and development, and for that we have adopted the technology. That is also an important point to note. So that's why we were able to achieve milestones, and we will achieve milestone as well. And personality we have already talked about, like Vikram Sarabhai, the leader of India's space program, had envisioned that the satellites which we will launch, that will definitely help in helping the farmers and various communities for their changes in the lifestyle, livelihood, and health and education. That was the principle. We were not in the principle that we will commercially exploit, but we will work for the welfare of the people, for the poorers, so that they gets empowered. That is the point. Okay, so that refers the moonshot approach, where the role of a state was also an important pillar that defined our success. Okay, and The success, however, was partially why? Because we were heavy reliance on the public investment, not the private investment. Because in this sector, the private investment are basically faces some barriers, like they don't want to take risks. That's why here the role of a state becomes very very important. And also some of the economists said that the investment were being misdirected, like we were focusing on capital and technology intensive industries, rather we should focus on labor intensive industry. Why? Because India has one of the highest number of working age population, and that's why if labor intensive jobs and industries are promoted, that means people will get more employment. That is the point. And that's why the partial success was there. But there is a reason why we adopted the state involvement, because the technology led development requires higher capital and funds, and also the success is based on long gestation period, means they requires good number of times to get into reality. Okay, so that's why private players were unable to lead the moves, because they were something like fearful that if we invest, what will happen if the success is not achieved, and many more things. So that's why a role of public funding was very very important, and that's why our success in technological and space programs was due to public funding as one of the factor. And also it is not only for India. Consider the case of different country, like we consider the case of US. In fact, when we talk about the internet was the outcome of defense research program conducted in US, which was a research program in 1950s. So it was because of public good nature of technology that public sector support becomes crucial for developing them. Okay, and also the technological capability built through a state support provided the base for flourishing private enterprise. And now we are seeing the incoming of enterprises, because we have set the base for them to come and to get facilitated, to get promoted. That is the point. And however, we have inequalities, which is a hurdle for progress. So there is a tussle that government should focus on technology, or government's effort should be on minimizing inequality. That is the tussle. But here the problem is not about technology. The problem is lack of proper implementation of policies. Okay, like taking the example of land distribution program, which was initiated after India's independence. So here technology can aid in land redistribution, but because of proper lack of implementation, the land redistribution program was not properly implemented. And we can see that the oppressed communities, the so-called lower caste communities, they faces barriers, like they have lack of assets, they have lack of resources, they have lack of land, and they faces barrier. And because of that, they are not able to educate their children in better schools, in better university, and that becomes the cycle of poverty. That is the point. Okay, and so we can have a data, you can put it on, like in 2021-22, 38.2% of all scheduled caste workers were casual. Meaning what? That these persons and the development gets stuck because of lack of resources. And when we talk about general category, only 11.2% workers were involved in the casual worker, meaning these lower caste workers are more engaged in casual or informal or so-called low status worker. Then definitely when the child will grow, they will face lack of resources, money, education, and this cycle will move on. That is the point. Okay. And the persistence of inequality had negatively impacted our industrial and economic growth. Along with, we have a loop-sided domestic demand. Why? Because the demand for the good products, better education are fueled by whom? The good family background who have earning better and better. But it is not fueled by whom? The lower caste people who are facing the monetary crisis, resource crisis. That is the point you should note. Okay. So what we have to done, reinstate the state support. What I am trying to say, that once upon a time we were supported by the state, but after 1990s reforms, our economy get liberalized, get privatized, and because of that, inequality got a rise. And that's why the involvement of state in the interferences of minimizing inequality get reduced. So India must redouble efforts to make economic growth more inclusive. For that, the role of a state is also very, very important. For example, when we talk about education, they should be accessible to all, and here the role of the state becomes very important. And the India's mission to use technology for the welfare of the people as well as to propel itself to a higher level of development is half won, because here we have something concerning, like we are not able to provide benefit to all the people. For the marginalized people, like we have taken the example of land redistribution scheme, and because of that there is huge impact on the social and human capabilities of the people, because majority of the people are poor and the middle sector family. And if we are not able to support them, then definitely their human capability, the social capability, the economic capability may got not increased, and because of that it will be hurdle in our economic progress, because our progress depend on our social advancement, our political advancement, our economic advancement, and you can add our technological advancement. And for that, all these pillars should be inclusive, should incorporate all the people, whether they are poor, whether they are rich, whether they are middle class. That is the summary of the article. Hope you understood. Now you have to attempt the question and the solution has been given. You should understand that our earth has been divided into the two hemisphere, northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, and because of the rotation and revolution of the earth, the sun shifts from tropic of Cancer to tropic of Capricorn, and it is talking about northern hemisphere, and northern hemisphere meaning the sun gets rise in the tropic of Cancer on 21st of June, and on 21st of June the maximum sun rays passes on the northern hemisphere. That's why the longest day of the year normally occurs in the northern hemisphere. Remember the keyword northern hemisphere, that is your second half of the month of June. Okay, that is the answer. Hope you understood. And there is basic concept about latitude, longitude, the rotation of earth, the revolution of earth. Hope you are well aware of that. Okay, so be prepared and read NCERT of geography. It will help you a lot. So now shifting our focus to daily current affairs for the prelims purpose. Hope you enjoyed the article, and now we will discuss some of the important articles. The first article is related to Climate Ambition Summit 2023. This summit, which was a part of UN General Assembly, that is your United Nations General Assembly, this was organized where? New York, and New York is where you should comment in our comment section. Okay, and what was the important point to note, that the three major emitter of greenhouse gas, that is China, the US, and the third is India, all these were absent, despite they contribute 42% of global greenhouse gas emission. So why they were absent? So the report suggests that they didn't updated their nationally determined contributions, which needs to be updated on a regular basis. So that's why they hadn't participated. And what was the aim of the summit? Basically, to showcase the leaders who are movers and doers and have credible actions, policies, plans to keep the Paris Agreement target under the commitment. What was the Paris Agreement target? That keeping the rise of temperature of the earth by 1.5 degrees and at max 2 degrees Celsius. Okay, that was the goal, the target of the Paris Agreement. And also deliver climate justice those who are facing the climate crisis. Climate justice means what? That the region, the country who is facing climate crisis because of global warming and the impact of global warming, we have to deliver justice. And who faces more crisis? It is the poorer people, it is the poorer country, it is the underdeveloped and developing country who faces all these crises. So that is the point, and you should understand, you should note about Climate Ambition Summit. Okay, now the second article is very much interesting and it will give you idea about the society and the our criminal justice system, how we are lacking in providing the proper justice to the people. Okay, the second article deals with a GPS tracker to reduce the overcrowding in prisons. We, on the daily basis, in various newspapers, see that the prison has been overcrowded by prisoners. Why? Because we have lack of prisons, but the number of prisoners is increasing. And do you know why? It is all because the number of under trial prisoner is very much high as compared to the prisoner who got convicted. That is the point, and that is very much challenge, that despite the person is under trial, they are facing the charges and they are investing their time into the jails, and maybe the time has been overcrossed their period of jail award. That is the point you should note. What is the recent context? A parliamentary panel on home affairs in its report recommended that ankle trackers like something which should be binded to the hand, and that will track the prisoners who get outside the jail on the bail. Okay, so that the overcrowding in the prison should be reduced. And you should understand that mostly the bail is denied to the prisoners on three grounds. What are the three grounds? First of all, maybe the under trial prisoner may influence or intimidate the witness, and also maybe once they come out of the jail, they can leave the country to bypass the punishment, as well as they may commit another crime. So that are some of the reasons why they have delayed bail for the jail. Okay, so also the committee founded that mobile phones are one of the most frequently a smuggled item into the prisons. That is also one of the important findings you should note. And if you talk about some data, you will be very much in shock. According to the prison statistics published by the National Crime Record Bureau, that is the government agency which publishes on the yearly basis various types of crimes, the rate, and very much data. Okay, and we can see that there are 1319 prisons in India, and total capacity is about what? 4,25,609 prisoners. But the actual inmate is about 5.5 lakh, which shows that occupancy capacity rate is 130.2%, meaning 30% higher than the capacity of the prison. And because of that, there is a situation of crisis in the jail, like they are not able to get food, proper treatment, or they are vulnerable to various disease infections, all of these. Okay, and you will be more interesting to understand that out of the total inmates, the number of under trial prisoners is 4,27,165, and what is the number of actual inmates? 5,54,000. So that is meaning that under trial prisoners is very much higher in number, and the convicted prisoner is about 1,22,000 approx. So what is the suggestion that has been given to reduce the overburden? First of all, transfer them to other jails where the jail have empty spaces, or the suggestion which has been given that they should be released on bail by putting some tracker into their hand so that they can be tracked easily where they are, what they are doing, and many more things. So that has been suggested. Now shifting to our second article, it is related to the resumption of the services by our Chandrayaan 3 Pragyan rover. Okay, what is the point? You need to understand that there is a total 28 days in the moon, and out of that, half period remains dark where sun rays are absent, and half period remains in light where sun rays are reaching. That meaning out of 28 days, we have 14 days in dark and we have 14 days in sunlight. And when Chandrayaan 3 was launched, that period was the phase of the period when sun rays was there, and that's why after 14-15 days the Chandrayaan 3 and the rover was in the shutdown mode so that they can resume their services. Maybe there is a probability that they can resume their services, but it will depend on the real-time scenario. So ISRO is hoping that again they may be able to wake up the Pragyan and the Vikram today. We will see what the response is that. Okay, now there is a important news related to the personality Saroja Vaidyanathan, and she was an important Bharatnatyam dancer, and she is no more because they faced the issue of cancer and ultimately died. And you should know about this personality that they had contributed a lot in engaging our culture, our art, not only to India but over the world as well, via their dance, via their cultural integration. And that is the point. And here you have to tell me about the Bharatnatyam dance, where it is practiced, and some of the features of Bharatnatyam. Even that concept is important for the mains and prelims point of view. Now shifting to our third article, it is related to Women's Reservation Bill which passed in Rajya Sabha. Earlier we have discussed an article about the Women's Reservation Bill in great detail. If you hadn't watched that article, please do visit in our previous lecture and watch it again. And here we are providing context that in the Lok Sabha it was already passed, and now it has been passed from Rajya Sabha as well. And maybe as it is a constitutional amendment bill affecting the relations of the state, it may be delivered to the state legislative assembly, and this bill may get required approval from half of the state, and after that the president may assent the bill, and that only the bill will become act and the provisions will be implemented. And that's why you should be well aware about the parliamentary proceeding, and especially when there is a constitutional amendment bill brought. So what is the procedure and how the process works? What do you mean by special majority, simple majority? You should all need to that. So it has been passed in Rajya Sabha and all of by special majority. And we have discussed articles about this in detail. If you hadn't watched, please go back on our discussion series and you will be aware of the provisions of these articles. Okay, that is a historical moment for achieving more political representation of women in our political setup, which is lacking the representation of women even after 75 years of independence. That is also very important thing to note. Now all the articles has been finished. Hope you understood, and if you are liking our initiative, please do join, subscribe our channel. Thank you friends, we'll meet again with next article discussion. For now, thank you very much. Okay.